a bit like the genie too, then, right? Because it's like the wording will get you. You're damn, the devil's in the details, right?
That's right.
Did you hear some story? I don't know if it's an urban legend. I think it was true about some kind of like a drone testing military program where the drone had the goal of picking out targets, but the human had to okay them. But the drone had a competitive nature where it wanted more points.
Yes.
And eventually it just took out the human operator
Absolutely.
who was saying, don't shoot everyone down.
That's
like,
right.
well, I got to get rid of you. You're keeping my score
Yes,
too low.
we have the phrase for that in artificial intelligence research is perverse instantiation. We think we know what we're asking it for it to do, and it finds an interpretation that we never intended, a perverse interpretation,
Right.
and it's instantiated into that robot or that computer. And it is very dangerous. We share so much commonality as human beings, whether we're Chinese, North American, European, we all have so much in common that we can communicate in a shorthand. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, you say that to a robot, and the robot would have a completely different interpretation of what it wants done. It's okay, oil me constantly. Don't feed me, come on.
Make sure
so
you give you 220 volts continuously.
That's right, So we have a really hard time putting our ethics into declarative statements that are universally true. Immanuel Kant, is famous for what he called the categorical imperative, which is a fancy way of saying, should this always be a rule? And if it shouldn't always be a rule, then it's not a good rule.
Fair enough.
Right? So, I happen to be a complete opponent of capital punishment. So I would say the state should never do that which the state finds abhorrent. If the state believes murder is abhorrent, the state should never commit murder. That's my position.
Sure.
But there are those who would say, well, kind of ridiculous that a guy who's killed 18 children gets to live on the state's largesse, fed 3 square meals a day, and all the health care he needs until he dies a natural death. So even on those very straightforward issues, we have no commonality or no consensus of what the moral answer
It's the
is.
same thing. I think the trolley problems brought a whole new
trolley
life
problem
when
is
people were
fabulous.
trying to figure out AI
That's
ethics,
right. Philippa Foot is the British ethicist who first put forward the trolley problem.
Yeah.
And absolutely, it's mind-boggling, right?
I heard different countries have different ethics. They polled. And they
Yes,
said,
they
like,
do.
what would
That's
you like
right.
to do? The French are romantic. They say protect women and children always.
Yes,
if it's a
that's
woman
right.
driving with children, run into the people. If you can't save them, if it's women and children on the road, take the men in the car off the bridge.
Yes, that's right.
And German says just don't interfere. Just hit the brakes, whatever happens.
Yes.
But it's interesting, right? Do you trust, have you ever been in a self-driving car? Would you trust the technology?
So I would trust it on a closed route as an interesting experience. And yes, I think I have, you ask have I ever been in a self-driving car? No. Have I ever been in an automobile accident? Several.
Okay.
And all of them were the fault of other people. And so, will people die because of self-driving cars? Absolutely. But will as many people die because of self-driving cars as drive now because of drunk drivers, tired drivers, or simply incompetent drivers, or just random fact that cars are going to hit each other no matter the best efforts of both drivers.
Yeah. I mean, China's actually quite advanced with self-driving car technology. I've had the chance to drive in a couple of them. My wife thinks it's quite freaky.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting, and I imagine with like Bluetooth, the idea that what would have been a fatal accident could have 2 signals just going like, hey, I'm coming around the corner.
That's
and they
right.
just kind of
they have a dialogue.
And
that's what we don't do.
That's what we don't do.
We only do a few rude hand gestures as communication with the other drivers, right? But absolutely, when the car is in communication with all the other cars, the likelihood of an accident is humongously reduced. Yeah. And but then you mentioned the trolley problem. When the car is going along and suddenly a kid runs out in front, and so the only choice is hit the kid or turn the car into the brick wall and kill the driver, nobody is ever going to buy the car that says, I'm going to choose to kill the passenger. It's not driver, passenger.
Sure.
And yet, all of our ethics say, well, that kid, then, we don't want to kill the kid. The women and children first.
So the obvious solution would be then you got to put a Bluetooth chip in the kid.
Well, that's you know, certainly you have to do stuff like that. Absolutely, you have to make
Chip
sure
the kids.